Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Patricia Brooks, author of Growing Bold, How to Overcome Fear, Build Confidence, and Love the Life You Live. Patricia, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me, Paul.
Are you ready to get started?
I am.
All right. Question number 1. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
I think based on my experience, the one piece of advice I would give is to make sure that they outline their book and understand the aim of their book. My book is a nonfiction book, and I was inspired to write it by a flash of insight. And so I just started writing without a plan, without an outline. And about a month or so in, I kind of lost the thread and said, okay, wait a minute, what am I going for here? And so I stopped and I read what I had written, and I realized it was just stream of consciousness, didn't seem to have a purpose or an aim. And so I wound up having to scrap most of that and start over. And I think that a first-time author who may be excited by an idea they have and who gets started and then loses their way might get discouraged when they go back and read what they've written, and they might, just abandon the whole writing process. So definitely have that outline, have that structure, have that aim, know what the book is, the aim of the book is.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Well, I think getting published these days isn't necessarily that difficult because of self-publishing is so easy and accessible now. I think, one of the difficulties could be for an author or a first-time author is figuring out which route to go down. Should they self-publish? Should they try to go the traditional route? Or should they find a vanity press or vanity publisher who can help them out? And so I think that could be one difficulty of getting published. I think the bigger difficulty is in promoting the book and marketing the book so that you get a lot of sales.
And with your book, did you go through a traditional publisher or did you publish it yourself?
I did the self-publishing route. I am a do-it-yourselfer, so I like the challenge of trying to figure out how to do that, but that's not necessarily for everybody.
Well, and this will tie into our next question perfectly, and that is about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that worked well.
Well, for me, I am not a marketing guru. And so when I launched my book, one of the things that I did use was a pre-sales campaign. And I basically made a list of all the people I knew and personalized them. So it took a long time, but letting them know getting back in touch with them, letting them know what I was up to and that I had a book coming out. I was really excited about it. And as a result of that, I did get quite a few pre-orders on the book. Now, after that, my marketing kind of fell apart. No, going forward, having had the experience this year of doing a Facebook Live 30-day challenge, where I did a video on Facebook sharing tips and insights, I think I would definitely leverage that as a strategy to launch my book, or maybe even as I'm writing the book to, create excitement and buzz about it so that people are, chomping at the bit to get the book.
Now, it's quite the challenge doing 30 days in a row of Facebook Live. So, how were you able to create a communication rhythm that during the 30 days you had different topics to talk about? Because obviously, that's a ton of content to cover in 30 days.
Yeah, and part of that time I was actually on vacation, so it was, a little bit helter skelter. It came about because a coach friend of mine said that I was being a little bit of a wallflower. I have a blog, and so I was doing that. I send out a newsletter monthly, but she said, "Oh, you could be doing more. I think you should do Facebook Lives." And again, I like a challenge, and it sounded like a challenge to me. And she said, do a Facebook Live challenge, 30 days back to back. So in August, I decided to do that. In terms of the content, creating the content, I didn't really know when I said, "Okay, I'm going to do it." I didn't really know what I was going to say. Um, but life gave me the content. The day before something would happen, or I would see something, or something else, something would suddenly make sense. And I would get these insights, these flashes of insights that I would share on Facebook Live that, help people to, move through life more easily, face their fears, learn how to leverage their intuition and trust it. And so just through the normal course of a day, something would happen, or I would see somebody do something, and that would make me think of, a quote that I heard, and then I would incorporate that. And so that's how that happened.
So basically, you just as you're going through your daily routine, going through the days, you get these ideas as you're progressing.
Right, right. And it's really around being just super aware of what's going on, because all these things are going on. And if we're kind of, head down, in our thoughts, we can't necessarily see them. And if we don't see them, then we can't use those to our advantage.
And then your videos, so they're probably about 3 to 5 minutes each, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think the longest was maybe 6 minutes.
And so as you progress with that, you got more and more comfortable with it, right? Because obviously the first couple of days it was probably a little bit intimidating doing that, and then as you keep doing it, you probably developed a rhythm and got more comfortable with the process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. At first, I was a member of Toastmasters, so I had my script and I was trying to, memorize my lines. And so I think the earlier videos, I think they're good, but they were a little stiff. And as I started to get more comfortable in front of the camera, I loosened up a bit. And so I think I'm more relatable in the later ones.
And so that was probably with instead of doing having the speeches, you were probably thinking about like 2 or 3 talking points, then elaborating on those. Is that right?
Yeah, and I actually did write out what I was going to say, and I did, practice a time or so, but I was not so stuck to those exact words. I just knew what I wanted to say, the order I wanted to say it in. And then just kind of said, okay, this is how it's going to be. It's going to be live. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be better than the day before.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of how I look at public speaking. Used to start with a script, and now it's mainly talking points and just elaborating and just kind of feeling where you want to go with it.
Yeah, and then a lot of times, I'm telling a story. So the story, this happens, then this happens, then this happens, and so it's so much easier to remember when you frame it that way.
Well, and you hit the nail on the head, especially about storytelling, story branding. That's what people relate with. They relate with the stories. Just like when you're doing your book, people want to be able to connect with you, and when you're able to share those stories, it's such a more powerful way to connect versus just talking about certain areas where you're talking about life, you're talking about what's going on, and that's what really is going to build that attention.
Yeah, that real life. Yeah.
Well, cool. So, are you ready for the hard question now?
Yes.
I always joke around, I guess, about this because this is actually the hard question. So I know we took a little deeper dive into the marketing aspect, but now I'd like to ask you about your favorite book. So, what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Yeah, that is a hard question because there are so many good books and so many books that I have learned so much from. But if I had to today, today's answer, if I had to pick one, would be The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Um, And that was so powerful for me because it to helped me to start living a life with less struggle. It helped me to see and understand how my beliefs were shaped and how my beliefs weren't necessarily true, but they were true for me because of the culture and the family I was raised in, and that those beliefs could be limiting. And so once I understood this, then I could start to see things through a different lens and question whether or not my beliefs were true for me still, if they served me still, or if I needed to expand and change those beliefs so that I could get different results in my life. And it is just, it's just a powerful, powerful book, a powerful way to live your life. The four agreements help you to be the best person you can be.
And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
I think for me, it's so important for people to understand, know that life is short, it's finite, and that, for me, it's important not to get to the end of my life feeling like I have not done the things that I wanted to do. And so this quote is near and dear to my heart. It's by Jim Rohn. We must suffer one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The difference is regret weighs tons, while discipline weighs ounces.
Yeah, that is such a powerful quote because last thing you want to do is deal with regret. When I made the decision a year and a half ago to leave teaching and go into book publishing, it was a great risk, but I didn't want to have that regret. I didn't want to end up teaching 30 years and going, wow, why didn't I ever go in this publishing direction and do what I really love to do? I mean, I love teaching, but I really love doing what I'm doing now as a publisher. And that's how that quote connects, is because that's the worst thing I think you have to deal with in life is regret, not taking those risks, not getting that book out there, because that's the last thing you want to deal with, especially as you get older. I'm going to be in my mid-40s next year or so, and the last thing I would want to deal with is regret.
Yeah, yeah, and taking that leap and making that change really has made a difference in your life, hasn't it?
Yeah, one of my mantras, and I always teach this to my clients, is do not be afraid to take the plunge. And I think that really connects well with the quote.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Patricia, I want to thank you for being a guest on this show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
They can find me at discoveringcourage.com or on Facebook at The Courage Catalyst.
Patricia, I want to thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.